Hi everyone, this is Yana Smakula and thank you so much for joining me today. In this video, I'm creating simple and easy to stamp pattern for a card suitable to send to our crafty friends using Simon's brand new Crafty Friends stamp set. If you've been wanting to try to stamp a pattern using your small individual stamps, but maybe have been afraid to try, or didn't have time to try, or didn't know where to start, hopefully this video will give you a little nudge and will encourage you to pull out your small stamps, be it the stamps from this Crafty Friends stamp set or any other stamp set, and actually stamp a pattern for a card. If you do end up stamping something, please share it somewhere and tag me. I'd love to see it. Then seriously, seeing what you guys make using the ideas that I share makes me incredibly happy and very grateful for having all of you. So first thing first, the stamp set I'm using today comes from Simon Says Stamp January 2018 card kit. You can get it as a part of the kit or individually if you want to get it to have the exact images that I'm using today. But like I said, other stamp sets with small individual images, preferably solid images, will work just as well. In my last video, I mentioned I struggle with color and selecting color combos for my cards. I also mentioned Simon's Color Coordinates video series by Sherry Carroll. Well, for this card, I actually went and looked at Sherry's color combos and picked one that I like the most. Because you know what? Why invent the wheel all over again? I used Sherry's Sweet Pea color combo, which is apricot, duckling, willow, and lake shores. All of these are Simon Says Stamp in colors, and she also listed Desert Storm, which is a paper color. But I substituted this with Smoke, a nice dark gray. I decided to stamp two identical patterns because I wanted to try an idea that I had. I needed to have another stamped background for that. Because I was making two identical patterns, I used my stamp positioning tool. But you do not need to use it. You can stamp a pattern like this using a clear block, just like I shared in my previous video. If you find you cannot get a nice saturated impression the first time you stamp your image, it's likely because your ink pad might be a little bit on the dry side and it might need re-inking. Some of my ink pads are rather old and do need re-inking, so double and even triple stamping the image using that ink pad is important for a good result. I started working on this pattern by stamping the sentiment first. Now, I did do a little bit of pre-planning beforehand, and I knew I wanted this large sentiment to be somewhat in the center of my panel. Next, to make my stamping easier and faster, I assigned an ink color to every image. So what I mean here is I used an image of an envelope in a circle, and I stamped it in Lakeshore's ink every time. I ended up stamping it 3 times on each of my cards, and for every impression, I used the same color of ink. I didn't go using all of the colors that I had picked for this background to stamp that one single image. Now, why do I do this? You certainly can stamp this image repeatedly using different colors of ink, but stamping it in one color makes it easier to track what that color is. It eliminates the need to clean the stamp from one ink color before using the other, and for me personally, this makes the stamping process go faster. I did not have enough colors of ink for each image. You can if you want to. I was sticking to Sherry's color combo and I did not want to introduce other colors here. So some images that I used the same colors of ink. I was using more than 5 images, different images, so therefore some images needed to use the same ink color. To make sure I had equal color distribution, I didn't use one color of ink for all of the large images, or I would have had too much blue, for example. I used blue for the envelope and yellow for the palette, which both are large images in this case. You'll notice that as I was stamping, I started by stamping largest images first, and later added medium size and smaller size images in the areas that I had left on my background. At the very end, I used a tiny heart to fill in any gaps. I did not start by stamping the heart and then adding the main sentiment, as I might not have had the room for it. So this is much easier to go from large to small when stamping backgrounds like this. Another tip I'll give you is to rotate your images and have them face different directions. The green paintbrush, for example, is facing in all 4 directions on my finished pattern. I even rotate the sentiments. that are secondary. I don't rotate my main sentiment. So the secondary sentiments are stamped at 90-degree angle, and some are even upside down. I'm going to play some music now and let you enjoy the rest of the stamping. I believe I have mentioned all of the tips and tricks that I use when stamping backgrounds like this, and there's not much more to talk about. I'll be back in a little bit showing you how I altered my second stamped background. And by the way, if you want to see more stamped background ideas, be sure to watch my previous video using Simon's Positivity stamp set. I share 3 different kinds of backgrounds, stamped all using just that one stamp set. I wanted to be able to add background color to my second stamped background, but I wanted to be able to do that quickly. So I needed to protect the stamped images on my paper. I did that with the help of clear embossing powder. I simply stamped each image once again onto my paper, exactly over the previously stamped image, and I used clear embossing ink. Next, I covered the images with clear embossing powder and I heat set it. I was also sure to use my anti-static powder tool on my paper prior to stamping and heat embossing to keep my images nice and clean. Now, some images were a tiny bit offset, but that didn't bother me. Next, I used a blue ink pad and an ink blending tool and blended blue ink onto my background. I didn't quite like how light the blue ink was, so I later used Hero Art's navy ink and added another darker coat of blue. This is a simple resist technique where I have the embossing powder resisting the ink that's applied over it. The embossing powder is clear, so it protects the image and the color that is underneath it. I like how this turned out. It definitely took a lot longer than just stamping a background, and this is something I look forward to doing again in the future, but possibly by using larger images. Because the larger the images you use, the less time it will take you to stamp a background. And maybe instead of blending the background in just one color of ink, I'll use different colors or maybe create an ombre look. So what do you guys think? Is the blue background a yay or a nay for you? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't yet done so. If you are a subscriber but are not receiving new video notifications, check the bell icon on the homepage of my channel to get notified every time there's a new video out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!